Blog Talk Radio. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Stress is Stressing Me Out podcast. I am your host, Maki Adeyemi, and today we will be discussing 10 things to stop tolerating now. Today's devotional comes from 1 Thessalonians chapter 9, verses 4 through 12. It says, "Mind your own business and work with your hands." And the title of this devotional is Minding My Own Business. Years ago, my son Josh and I were making our way up a mountain trail when we spied a cloud of dust rising in the air. We crept forward and discovered a badger busy making a den in a dirt bank. He had his head and shoulders in the hole and was vigorously digging with his front paws and kicking the dirt out of the hole with his hind feet. He was also so invested in his work he didn't hear us. I couldn't resist and prodded him from behind with a long stick lying nearby. I didn't hurt the badger, but he leaped straight up in the air and turned towards us. Josh and I set new world records for the 100-yard dash. I learned something from my brashness. Sometimes it's best not to poke around in other people's business. That's especially true in relationships with fellow believers in Jesus. The Apostle Paul encouraged the Thessalonians to make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. You should mind your own business and work with your hands. We're to pray for others and seek by God's grace to share the scriptures, and occasionally we may be called to offer a gentle word of correction. But learning to live a quiet life and not meddling into others' lives is important. It becomes an example to those who are now outside God's family. Our calling is to love each other. Okay, so let's talk about our topic today, which is 10 things to stop tolerating now. Stress is the number one workforce risk issue, ranking above obesity and physical inactivity. What's more, there seems to be a disconnect between what employees say stresses them out and what employers focus on when it comes to stress. Employees feel stress in four main areas: workload levels, interpersonal issues, job security, and juggling work and personal life. It's time to examine what you might be tolerating in your life, those things that may be driving some of your unhappiness and lack of productivity. Here are the top 10. Some of these things I did as a podcast at the beginning of the season and last season, so you can go and check those out. So number one, the first thing you need to stop tolerating is being burned out. Burnout is the chronic state of being out of sync with one or more aspects of your life, and the result is a loss of energy, enthusiasm, and confidence. If the causes of your burnout are not immediately addressed, your physical health and mental well-being will likely deteriorate. Number two, inaction. People often get stuck because of fear, guilt, or simply not knowing which way to go next. In order to achieve bigger goals, take smaller steps. If you are staring down a goal that seems overwhelming, keep breaking down the goal until you can say with confidence, "Of course, that's so easy. I can get that done." Number three, negativity. Given how hard the professional world is today and how often you are barraged with negative information, it is easy to be tuned into pessimism and negativity. Fight back with humor. Early studies of humor and health showed that humor strengthened the immune system, reduced pain, and reduced stress levels. Since humor builds positive emotion, it can also help reduce feelings of anger, depression, and anxiety. Number 4, disorganization. Disorganization is a barrier to productivity. If you continually say, I don't have time to do X, you can get more organized by creating schedules and systems that become habitual. The business book E-Myth by Michael Gerber does a wonderful job of describing the importance of systems in the business world, and the idea is transferable to non-work situations as well. Good systems are fluid, measurable, and can and should be changed as better methods are established or as missing pieces are learned. Number 5, chronic stress. We have long heard that chronic stress is bad for us, but we are now learning that it actually ages us down to the cellular level. Our chromosomes are capped by these little things called telomeres, which look like the plastic ends on your shoelaces. Telomeres shortening is a marker of aging, and high levels of chronic stress actually cause your telomeres to shorten, meaning you age faster. This was illustrated by researchers Alyssa Epple and Elizabeth Blackburn, who studied moms who cared for chronically ill children. Each participant in the study was given a perceived stress test, and various biological measures were taken. What they found was that those moms with the highest levels of perceived stress had telomeres that were far shorter than those moms with the lowest levels of perceived stress. In fact, those women in the high stress group were found to be physically a decade older than the women with lower rates of perceived stress. So, what are the next 5 things you need to stop tolerating? I will tell you after the break. Number 6, keeping up with the Joneses. It's our natural tendency to want to know how we stack up to others. It's not enough to know our own performance, but we also want to know how we're doing in comparison to other people. When it comes to having material possessions, people think those possessions will bring us more happiness than they actually do. In 1940, Americans reported being very happy with an average score of 7.5 out of 10. Fast forward to today, and with all of our iPods, smartphones, computers, fast cars, and an income that has more than doubled, what do you think our average happiness score is today? It's 7.2. Not only does materialism not bring happiness, it's a strong predictor of unhappiness. One study examined the attitudes of 12,000 freshmen when they were 18, then measured their life satisfaction at age 37. Those who had expressed materialistic aspirations as freshmen were less satisfied with their lives 2 decades later. Number 7, thinking the perfect exists. It took me years to realize how destructive the pursuit of perfection really is. Thinking you have to do things perfectly and or be perfect is like carrying around a heavy weight on your back and is absolutely crushes creativity. According to the researcher Professor Brené Brown, perfection is correlated with depression, anxiety, addiction, and life paralysis or missed opportunities. The fear of failing, making mistakes, not meeting people's expectations, and being criticized keeps us outside of the arena where healthy competition and striving unfolds. Number 9, everyone's opinion of you. All the time and energy I have wasted caring about what other people thought of me. Was I wearing the right thing? Did I say the right thing? Did I handle that situation correctly? When I had to create a new path after I burned out, I decided to keep caring about the opinions of everyone other than a handful of key people in my life. I decided to be in charge of what I wanted and didn't want. Yes, it took me a while to realize that. And how many people out there today, you guys, are dealing with people who like to speak on you? They always like to come and tell you your shortcomings and what you're doing and what you're not doing. You're not doing this correctly. I have dealt with that. In fact, I dealt with that even as a child. I dealt with that. I dealt with that from other kids because when I was a kid, I was on the bigger side. Okay, I was heavy in the weight area, and I had kids would tell me things that I shouldn't wear this, and you need to drop weight. And fast forward into my adult life, it was a sore spot for years. But now I don't tolerate it. I don't take it anymore. And if I am criticized by an individual, I stop dealing with that individual completely and totally. I have even dropped friendships because of another person who came into our group, said some things. I was not defended by the other person, which I didn't need to be defended. I decided that it was time to end the friendship, and I haven't talked to that person since 2008. Number 9, a job that you hate. According to the most recent Gallup survey on employee engagement, 50% of workers report being not engaged, while another 20% report being actively disengaged. That means 70% of employees are working at their full potential. If your circumstances prevent you from changing jobs now, start putting the pieces in place to transition when the time is right. And we have all worked jobs that we hated, during the teen years and probably in our younger years when we were in our 20s. And maybe even right now in your 40s, you're working a job that you really do not care for. Search out for something that you want to do, something different, someplace different, and then, make a plan of escape. And number 10, being financially illiterate. Some people know when they are to get paid and just spend it. I was one of those people. I was lucky to have $50 left after I paid bills, and I made stupid choices with money when I was a younger person. With the help of Dave Ramsey, and I'm pretty sure most of you out there have heard of him. He has a podcast. I don't get paid by him. I'm not endorsing him. I know the importance of saving and planning for my financial future. I learned to write a budget and save. I forced myself to understand the differences between a 401k and a 403b, Roth IRAs, plain IRAs, and SEP accounts, and what exactly a no-load mutual fund is. If the world of finance isn't your cup of tea, get some help. There are many resources out there, from books to blogs to certified financial planners. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes once said, "Too many people die with their music still in them. Maybe that is due in part to our tolerance of the wrong things." What would you add to this list? So what do you think? What are your thoughts? Tweet me at StressingIs or email me at sismo1875@gmail.com. You can find this podcast at Stitcher, Google Plays, Spotify, TuneIn, iTunes, and Blog Talk Radio. Until next week, let not your heart be troubled. Relax.